Is this Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's last chance with Netflix? Yes, oh yes, the numbers are out for the last half of 2023, and it is not looking good for the Montecito duo. In fact, it's looking really, really bleak. Harry and Meghan are in desperate need of a hit at this point because they have a contract for $100 million, and they definitely are not producing content worth $100 million. And I'm so sorry, Harry and Meghan, but I don't think American Riviera Orchard is going to be the magical wand that you think it is. In fact, it has been 11 weeks today since Meghan Markle launched American Riviera Orchard, and we have absolutely nothing from it. We got a series of pictures of jam, but that ended a month ago too. So what the heck is going on with American Riviera Orchard? Is Meghan entirely banking on the cooking show to sell American Riviera Orchard? Because if she was smart, she'd be selling stuff on American Riviera Orchard right now in order to help promote her upcoming show. And if she's not doing that, then why the heck did she launch American Riviera Orchard? Because unfortunately, I think she missed her window. And I think Harry and Meghan are soon going to find the window closed with Netflix as well, because we have some hard and fast numbers, and numbers don't lie. Except for their documentary on themselves, Harry and Meghan are not doing well at Netflix. And if a polo documentary and Meghan's cooking show can't raise the ship, then Harry and Meghan are sunk. So we are going to go into this today because I've been waiting for this Netflix report for a while, and I'm so excited it finally came out, and we know how things performed, because Harry and Meghan and their fans, they like to just portray this great image and tell us how great they are doing and how they're successful they're being. But numbers don't lie. And Netflix has a lot of hard and fast numbers to go. Well, you know what? $100 million on Harry and Meghan definitely ain't worth the investment. So we are going to explore this today. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide y'all compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes the drama going on behind the scenes. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be awesome. And I also have an upcoming crown report. Hopefully, I'm going to get out for tomorrow because we have so much stuff. Trooping the Color is happening. Charles will be riding in a carriage and not on horseback. And we have news that Catherine may be out for still a little bit and that she's still seemingly undergoing some treatments. We also just have so much other things going on with the other royal families. So I can't wait to share that update with you guys. Hopefully tomorrow, that is my goal, is to get it out to you guys every Friday. And if you're liking my jewelry, it is Ana Lucia Diamonds. It makes me always so happy because I love having a little bit of sparkle in my life. And I do have my Royal Fashion News channel. I just uploaded a video called Tiara Politics. So if you want to get to know who wears what tiara, how they divvy them out and everything, I do have a video on that. So I'm very excited. I will link that up above. And if you guys like the jewelry here, obviously I got the ring, I got my tennis bracelet, which was the jewelry piece I never realized I wanted so much until I had it, because it just makes me happy every day because it sparkles. It sparkles and it makes me happy. So if you guys are interested in that, if you use code ROYAL20, you will save 20% with Ana Lucia, and I'll link them up above as well. So when it comes to Netflix, they're actually somewhat different than the other streaming services, where they're actually starting to give us numbers of what we watched in the second half of 2023. They actually did one for what we watched in the first half of 2023. And this is the first time a streaming company has done this. So that might seem rather out of left field because, of course, we always had the Nielsen ratings and everything. So we are very aware of how well something did when it came to television. But with streaming, it was quite different because you could sort of hide and conceal the numbers. You can say something was a massive, massive hit if you wanted to. And then somewhere down the line, you realize that really nobody ever watched it. And they just said that to hopefully promote it so that more people could watch. But as the strikes went on and everything in Hollywood, there was this greater emphasis on creators even wanting to know, how did X perform? I want to know, how did this perform? So there was this advocacy for transparency, which I think is actually pretty good because people deserve to know, was your thing actually successful or not? Or was it just something inflated or something like that? That's what you need to know. And the hard numbers when it comes to Harry and Meghan are not looking too good for them right now. The Harry and Meghan documentary series obviously was a wild success, and nobody expected it not to be. Even in the first half of 2023, this was even a couple of weeks after it had launched, it was still 217 out of I don't know how many for Netflix in their initial early 2023 release. So this was January to June 2023. And it ranked over there at 62 million hours watched. And so this was obviously helpful and they ranked, you could say, fairly well overall. But the big question was, what does this mean going forwards? Because yes, everybody knew this would be a big success. Nobody was really ever questioning that, because what made Harry and Meghan's reality TV show so enticing was that it was a behind the scenes look at a royal family, something we just don't really get to see. And so that was the draw. The next thing they had, of course, was Live to Lead, which was a documentary series that they essentially purchased from somebody else, which had already been completed, that they dropped on December 31st, 2022. And it looked so dull and terrible. I didn't even watch it to review it. It just looked utterly like a snooze fest to me. What it was too is I had a couple interesting theories about it at the time, and I still don't know where I stand on this, but there could have been two options for that show. One is that it was something where Harry and Meghan needed something, and so they purchased something that was basically done. They finished, they added their little touches on it because we need to hear from them because they're so important. And then they launched it. Or it was something where Netflix sort of forced it on them, hoping maybe that their names would help promote this project that just really seemed rather dull. I mean, it was sort of terrible interview style, I thought, because everybody was interviewed. They were like prominent people like Greta Thunberg or Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and everything. And they were filmed on these stark white backgrounds, which I always find kind of terrible. I kind of hate it when people do that. And so when it came to launching that, I pretty much knew that one would be a dud. And it was. I can't even remember. I pulled it up and then I put it down. But let's see where was it? So Live to Lead, which was again something that dropped on December 31st, I believe. So this series should have had, let's say, a potential to do better in the first half of 2023 because it only had 24 hours in 2022. And so it landed at number 5,569, at least on this list on Netflix, and it had 2.3 million hours viewed. That's really, really low compared to the number one here. If we go back way back up to the top, which was 812 million hours view. And that was The Night Agent season 1. So that gives you somewhat of an understanding of where Harry and Meghan sit on this list. So Live to Lead did poorly. But my true test in my thought was Heart of Invictus. Because here's the thing, the Heart of Invictus, which I surmised and was correct, was that it would drop right before the Invictus games, which it did. Because the purpose of Heart of Invictus is to push people towards the games. That's the whole purpose. It's sort of like a promotional tool for the Invictus games. That's what it was meant to be. But the question was, would people watch it and were people really all that invested? Because even though Harry's name is attached to it, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be huge success. And my point about the Invictus games that I've sort of come to over the years is that, yes, it's of interest to the friends and family members of the participants, but I think its broad appeal is somewhat limited. Not that people don't want the veterans to do this. Of course they do. I think it's a fantastic program. But its appeal to the broader public, I think, is rather small because I went to the Invictus games. I enjoyed sitting volleyball because it had sort of an action element to it. But when it came to swimming, I found that kind of dull because there was some people who were really, really struggling to do it. And I was so proud of those people for doing that. But I didn't have a connection to that person and I didn't know their story. And so because of that, I'm just kind of sitting there twiddling my thumbs, waiting for them to finish the final lap, going, okay, this is awesome. But I as a spectator without greater context to this person's life and what they've experienced, it was just harder to engage. And so Harry's goal in the Heart of Invictus should have been is to take a concept that maybe some people find hard, some people haven't experienced, the cost of combat, and how to translate that into something that the general public can consume and really becomes engaged in. That is the trick. And I think they succeeded obviously with the story of Ukraine and a couple of the other stories. But I think overall, some of the people they focused on, it just didn't totally work. So when it comes to the example, there was a gentleman from the United States, because one of the things I think about Invictus is I really want to see or hear or understand, a soldier that has gone through combat and has come back wounded, either mentally or physically, that the games can help them through that period of trial. But one of the main guys they focused on was not injured in combat. He was injured in an automobile accident here in the States. Not that he can't compete, 100% he can compete. But when it comes to what Harry needed to pitch for the Invictus games, I think that was somewhat a failure there because the purpose is, again, to engage me in the Invictus games, which the documentary didn't really do. Started, of course, talking about Harry and how he created the games and how important it is that Harry created the games. That was like the initial message you got. And then it meandered through a couple of storylines. Some of them were a lot stronger than others. Some of them were pretty weak. A strong storyline they could have gone with was completely dismissed. And so overall, I came to the conclusion that it just wasn't a good documentary. And it seems like most of the other public was with me on that. It wasn't a good documentary. And I love documentaries. That's what I watch the vast majority of the time now, especially because I hate most of what Hollywood is producing. So I watch documentaries and I couldn't really watch The Heart of Invictus. And Harry and Meghan with $100 million contract, we will look and see. But Heart of Invictus, that is not what they're paying them $100 million for. For that performance, they don't deserve $100 million. So let's take a look at it real quick. This is 2023. So this is for the second half. So it doesn't include the first half. That is in this article here. But this is the second half. And again, this is only the second time they've done this. So it's still pretty huge thing here. And this report covers 99% of all viewing on Netflix. And so they had their first report. And so, share the staying power of Netflix stories. And so they start with Lupin. They have Coco Melon here. They got The Witcher, Virgin River, The Crown, Sweet Magnolias, Top Boy, Heartstoppers, and other ones here. And they also have Wednesday, Red Notice, Squid Games, huge things, bringing in millions of views still in 2023, even though they dropped in 2022. And so new adaptations were very, very successful, like One Piece. And this is actually a great example, too, of how one material can introduce and push people to a different medium. So in this case of One Piece here, and again, this is just an example of what Heart of Invictus was supposed to do. And we'll get back to this with American Riviera Orchard. One Piece, which was based on a manga series, this was the live action version, more than double the viewing of the anime film and series. So they had one medium here, which was the live action. And because they have the rights right now to the anime, they can show and see how many people jumped from basically watching the live action to going, oh, I like this story. I have 1,000 other episodes to check out of the actual main storyline. And so I can watch all these episodes and the couple of films that Netflix has here. And so it is a great cross-promotional tour. And they don't really have this information because manga's not on Netflix, is that the manga has probably seen an increase in sales because, again, cross-promotional between different mediums, because each of these different mediums offers them different opportunities. And again, this is what Harry needs to be looking for the Invictus games, because I think, again, the crutch of the Invictus games is that it's not bringing in a big audience. So his goal should be, how do I make the Invictus games palatable to a huge audience, create and generate more interest in the games? That is the point of Heart of Invictus, or that should have been. And so now they have a couple of other things they show. And obviously you have Beckham as well, did 44 million. And they have a couple other things here that they mention. Of course, none of the Harry and Meghan's titles. And so they've licensed a lot of content, which is also done very, very well for them. Suits alone had 144 million views. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane. But I think it goes to show, and I have a video posting tomorrow, hopefully as well, that kind of goes into Harry and Meghan's mistakes in terms of Hollywood too. And I think it maybe talks about Suits. But anyways, my overall thought on Suits is basically that we're looking for interesting fun because Hollywood sucks right now. And so it's a least offensive thing that we have. So people are interested in it. So you can see the whole list here. And again, this is just important because it's good always to have context. Context is important. And this is important too because numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Yes, Netflix can potentially inflate numbers, but these hard, fast figures are something Harry and Meghan can't hide behind. And despite what their fans say and everything, they generate a lot of noise, but not a lot of follow through, because even Harry and Meghan, their documentary, at least for the first half of 2023, was still in the 200s instead of up maybe in the top 10. Now, it might have been the top 10 when initially released 100%. You could probably look at the 2022 if they ever released it and see it doing very well. Not saying that, but it seems to lack somewhat a staying power. So it was at 217, and we'll see it drop pretty significantly here. But just wanted to point it out here. And we also have views, which is different than what they did last time. So we have kind of our top ones here. And so you can see One Piece vastly outperformed the second place. So One Piece had 71 million, and the next best had 50 2 million. So again, huge numbers jumps, and they still offer hours view. And so they have runtime. So, you can see how long a particular series could be. So this one runtime is 7 hours and 34 minutes. And so you have all these here. And so it kind of gives you again an idea of what we're looking at. So, and Crown season 6, in case you're curious, is right there. Suits first season is it's not at place 27. So it's at place like 21. The highest documentary that I can tell here is probably The Depp versus Heard. And so let's go look for Harry and Meghan. So let's do their reality TV series, because that performed better than anything else, which is not a surprise. Here it is at position 1,246. So it's dropped 1,000 positions. Now, again, it's a documentary. I'm not expecting it to do super well after its initial launch. But again, this is very interesting here. And so this was obviously a Netflix only series. So it dropped on 12/08/2022. So it wasn't a 2023 title. It has still 10.9 million hours viewed and 1.9 million views overall. Not bad. Not bad. But again, could it be better? Probably. Let's see. I'm just curious. Let's see. So let's now look for Heart of Invictus. Because again, this is a new title. It should do well than an older title here. So we have Heart of Invictus. So Heart of Invictus is right here. So that is almost 4,000. So that's position 3,991. And so let's go over here. And so it had a grand total of 300,000 views. 300,000 views. Top show, remember, had 72 million. And it could only garner 1.5 million watch hours. And this released within the time period. Yes, you didn't get the full 6 months, but still. And it was in the lead up to the Invictus Games. This should have done gangbuster or done better than it has done. Let's see some of the series that are up here as well. Some of these looks like foreign shows here that are doing about as well. So We Sunny in Philadelphia, season 3. Puss in Boots, The Adventure of Puss in Boots, season 5 did better. So honestly, you cannot objectively tell me that The Heart of Invictus did well, nor can you objectively tell me that Harry and Meghan were a good investment for Netflix. Just because, yes, you had one success, but your next thing, which should have been your biggest thing, because granted, Live to Lead wasn't going to do that well. The next thing should have been Gangbuster. And this is the best they can do. I just cannot foresee Netflix not telling Harry and Meghan, you need to have something big or we're done. Or we're done, because this is really, really pathetic. 3,991. And let's see how many. It goes probably down into infinity down here. Now we're looking at, okay, I think I was right when I said 6,000. So we have 6,600 overall. But Harry and Meghan, they're paying them $100 million potentially. You don't pay somebody $100 million for something that's going to sit after its release in almost 4,000th place out of 6,600. That is not what they're paying Harry and Meghan for. Now it's, I guess, a little shorter technically because first 6 spots are taken up. So now we go down to Live to Lead. Oh, even worse. So it's down in the lowest percentile here, and it was just had 100,000 views. Now, I don't always hit this metric, but guys, usually I have 100,000 views per video, and I don't have all the fancy connections with Netflix or international publications following me or anything. I'm just myself doing something pretty good, it seems, compared to Harry and Meghan. I need to look at this real quick, though, because I just wanted to test something out here. So, guys, looking at my analytics for YouTube, because again, I just think this is important to point out because I do this all by myself. And so I don't have the entire staff Harry and Meghan do. And I don't have the international publications and then whatever. And granted, 100%, I probably did not beat their numbers for the Harry and Meghan documentary. But in my last half of 2023, I had 12.7 million views and watch time hours was 2.6 million. Now, I think my watch hours were probably a little bit lower than theirs, but I didn't have quite as much. But I definitely, in terms of views, way, way, way outpaced Harry and Meghan. Because Harry and Meghan, had 1.9 million and then 400,000, I think, or 300,000 and then 100,000. So I definitely way outpaced them in terms of views. And yes, guys, I produce a lot more than they do, 110%. But I think this is a glaring, glaring problem. And it's not something ARO, which is a mess, is going to fix. So here's the problem with American Riviera Orchard. Now, if we look at it right now, let's look at it right now. American Riviera Orchard really hasn't moved at all. We're still sitting at 616,000. We still have this same post that we did from day one. And so what are we supposed to get from this? We have nothing to this. And of course, the website, let's just click on it. Won't be able to see it. Still exact the same as it was before. So nothing about American Riviera Orchard has changed. And so if I'm Netflix and I'm looking at this going, okay, so she's told us she has this grand idea for a cooking show. Great. People do love that. It's cheap to produce. Let's give it a try. And so she's like, the brand name is going to be American Riviera Orchard. And they're like, it could be better, whatever. And so they are like, okay, well, we'll start getting the ball rolling and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, she is launching the Instagram account with nothing. She has nothing. She has launched a website with nothing except for a way to capture emails. There is not even a confirmation email, not even a timeline email. There is literally nothing. And Netflix is probably going, "Oh my gosh, what the heck did she do?" Because again, like we saw with One Piece there, the live action led people to the anime, which potentially led people also to the manga. So you have a pipeline where different and competing media things are generating interest in other properties. Megan doesn't have that. She launched American Riviera Orchard too early with zero products. And then the only product she showed us was something as pedestrian as jam. Jam. And the last person to post about the jam now posted on April 29th. So that was her friend Heather Dorak. And she said, kid approved and mom approved too, or something like that. And I'm like, well, if she's your friend. Of course, you're going to say kid approved, mom approved. Yeah, you're forcing your kids to eat your friend's jam. Like, as a consumer, how is that supposed to make me buy her jam? It looks like, I mean, it's so narrow and small. It looks like literally a friend giving her friend's jam for like Valentine's Day or something, or maybe Christmas. It's like a kitschy little gift that you hand make and give to your friends. How in the world is this supposed to be a brand? Because what she should have done, which apparently is too out of left field for Meghan Markle. You grab the handle 100%. You 100% grab the handle, grab the website 100%. But you don't have to tell anybody that's what you're doing. Then you just let it sit there. And then when you're ready, you launch it. I have handles that I've grabbed that I haven't told anybody about. Why? Because at one point maybe I'll use them, but right now I don't. But I want to grab the handle, and so but obviously I'm not Meghan Markle, so nobody cares. But it's like I don't think anybody was searching for American Riviera Orchard until she told us to search for American Riviera Orchard. But she launched it with nothing, and then it was a couple weeks. Then we got this trickle of jam, and there was a bit of a jam craze for a while. So in terms of marketing, actually creating a lot of interest in jam is not a bad thing. But the thing is she didn't give anybody release. So there's this tension that builds when you wanna have products. So for example, an iPhone. Let's say take an iPhone. So the next iPhone 16, because they have completely lost the ability to give the iPhones new names. I know, it's silly, but it kind of bugs me because they just do numerical into infinity. It's like we're gonna have iPhone 112 at some point. Anyways, so they were going to release the iPhone. I mean, we get trickles of information throughout the year, but you have the announcement that there's going to be an Apple event in September. Awesome. Those who are interested, like me, watch the Apple event, see the new products. Ooh, I want that new product. And so what do? Why we have a pre-order that begins on X date, a shipping date on X date, and then an arrival date, usually on X date. We have a timeline of things. That's how businesses run. We have nothing from American Riviera Orchard. And her interest in jam that she sort of generated, she couldn't capitalize on because now everybody who's wanted jam has bought jam. That wasn't her jam. Like, I bought this jam as just, like, kind of a prop. So, this company, my man, got money, but Meghan Markle didn't. And not that I was gonna really buy her jam. I might have bought it just for testing purposes. But the thing is, she got everybody interested in jam and didn't give them any jam to buy. It's such terrible business practices. And if I'm Netflix and I'm looking at the disaster so far that is American Riviera Orchard, that looks like she's completely abandoned because she hasn't driven the narrative on it. This is the other thing about branding is if you launch a brand, you want to drive the narrative. You're not just giving it to your friends and having them drive the narrative. You need to drive the narrative too. And she looks completely detached from the brand because we haven't even seen her holding the jam. We haven't seen her holding her own stinking jam. Like, this is just so basic. Yes, you can have people review it 100%. That's what people do. That's press passes, everything. That's how you build brands. But when it comes to generating a bunch of international interest, you could say in jam, what you want to do is give people jam to buy. When you don't do that, they're going to buy other jam. And wouldn't you know it, your business is already cut in half, if not more, because of the inanely and incompetently bad strategy here. So I'm sure overall Netflix is looking at this going, we promised these people $100 million potentially, and they have given us one single hit. One hit. Their next thing we all knew was going to be a dead. Again, I'm somewhat thinking that Netflix could have pushed it off on them to give them something to do. And I guess they did the best they could, but it just wasn't that interesting a property. Anyways, if they personally decide to buy that, then shame on them for terrible business decisions. I can't say anything more than that. But then the other thing is that Heart of Invictus should have been their next big hit if they had done it well. But they don't really advertise things because they think they're too big to. They don't do the promotional tours that other people have to do. And yes, Harry did that for Spirit, but they haven't done that with anything else. Yes, Harry and Meghan, the reality TV series would have been a success. But everything else, they need to start making better business decisions because I think this is their last chance with Netflix. Netflix, again, they own the rights to Meet Me at the Lake. Harry and Meghan don't, Netflix does. So Netflix can allow them to play with it, but Netflix can also go, you know what? You guys kind of suck at this. So we're going to pull it and we're going to do it. We're going to give it to some competent people over there. And personally, for me, I really enjoyed One Piece. And so I'm like, for me, I'd much rather them put maybe the $50 million that Harry and Meghan haven't earned yet, or $75 million, and push it towards that production than I would have them push anything else towards Harry and Meghan because they just don't seem to be able to produce content. And yes, their reality TV series, of course, did well. But the true test was always going to be, what do you do after that? What do you do after that? That is the true test. Harry and Meghan failed it miserably. They also, and I did a whole video on this, which I will hopefully edit and post tomorrow too, utterly failed in the importance of striking while the iron was hot. They let the iron go too long, and the whole industry changed after they signed their deal. They went from the time of plenty to the time of slim in between. And they did that because they drug their feet the entire time. They also probably put way too much money into their documentary series, Harry and Meghan. Because that thing would have been a great success, the smart thing to do was to do that thing cheaply, do it quickly, and get it done. Because that's the thing that was going to be easily successful that you didn't have to really try out. The rest of the money, whatever production money they have, should have gone towards their other properties because they spent an awful lot of money on that show. So much money that they didn't need to spend. They didn't need to spend that because that thing was a surefire hit, whether they did it poorly or did it in my level of quality. It probably would have been a hit. So they didn't need to rent a $30 million house to film their sit down interviews when that money would have been much better spent doing it from their house where they were filming anyways. And then at some point, then they can push their money towards Heart of Invictus to make that better or to make actually something scripted because scripted TV series tend to do better. Yes, documentaries have, I think, a huge interest in the beginning, but they do fall away over time. So the best thing to do always is to start off with something gangbuster that keeps going. A scripted series, I think, will serve them much better at the end than their documentary stuff will. And I'm sorry, but I have no doubt that the polo one, unless they come out with something huge, is going to be a pretty big flop because it's a very niche market, anyways. Who watches polo? No, but the elite watch polo. It was a bad idea. And Harry has proven through Heart of Invictus, he can't produce. He can't help generate good stories. I don't think Megan's much better. So we shall see how all of this comes together. But really, guys, right now, I think the future with Netflix is looking really, really bleak for Harry and Meghan. And really, 100%, they only have themselves to blame. When they were focusing so much on themselves, when they should have been focusing on other things and trying to make their new business venture a success instead of settling grievances with the royal family. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of these hard and fast Netflix numbers. I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you for watching and I shall see you soon. Bye.